All right. Well, welcome to At the Table. Today we are discussing Enneagram 2s, which I feel like everybody has a 2 in their life. And it is, both you and I have a lot of 2s in our life. So this is one where we're going to go deep because we know all the sides of 2s.
Knowledge.
Yes. And then full disclosure, my husband's a 2, and he did say that. He said, go ahead and use him as an example and just to help showcase what 2s are like. But maybe this is just a 2 being helpful. And
He actually doesn't want
who knows?
Just
who
be
knows?
we'll be very, very grateful and tell him how much
We appreciate
we
it.
love him for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that's something I could do better in our relationship with a 2 is like being more like verbal affirmations, because I don't do like that's a high, like, and if you look at like love languages, it's just like not a high one for me, so I don't do it a lot.
My husband's not a 2, but well, let's talk about the 2s, and then I was going to ask, do you think most 2s have a like an affirmation love language?
It's service to others, but sometimes with
Well,
love
that's the way they
languages,
show it.
that's what I was going to say is how they show it versus how they always want to receive it is not always the same. I think he likes to receive like, hey, you're doing great. Hey, I appreciate what you're doing. I think he actually likes words of affirmation. I've increased him in our relationship. I don't think he's showing it through words of affirmation, but not necessarily what he always wants. But I think that's where we're not talking about this on this going in depth. But when it comes to love languages, I don't think they discuss enough about, like, I think there's too much assumption of if this is what you want or how you give it, is that how you want it back too? And it doesn't always match.
Yeah, I never thought that it was like a one-for-one.
Yeah, I
It's
did
how
when
you
I
feel
first
it.
read it. I thought it was like, oh,
Well, they make it sound like that, kind of.
yeah, like if you want this, so you must give, or you give this way, so you must want it back that way too. But, if your bucket's not filled in other ways, you might want it in a different way.
Just as a quick aside, this has nothing to do with the podcast. How do you feel it, Megan? And how do you give it? Love.
I like time, as you can
Quality
tell.
time.
Quality time. If you can like look at like any way that I get upset with people, it's always because I didn't get the quality time I want. And then I give it through gifts. Actually, I do a lot.
Oh my gosh, we're the exact same.
Yeah, I do a lot because I feel like I think about gifts. I want to do thoughtful gifts because I feel like that's. But what I do know though also is, look, my 2 husband just brought me coffee before he goes to the gym. Do you want to say hi?
You're walking away. Oh, hi, Frank.
He's got it.
That's a 2. So we'll get into it. But yeah, I definitely like notice that I will give a lot of gifts and like try and be really thoughtful about what people would want. And it's interesting that in my relationship, neither Frank or I, how we like to receive is high with gifts. So I've had to like change that.
Yeah, my husband could care less about gifts.
How crazy, that's how you like to give it. What do you do?
I just do it anyway.
Okay. What does he
He's
like?
his physical touch,
Which
which I don't hate, but after having a child, I'm like, don't touch me.
well, especially at the age of your child.
Yes, he
I
touches me all the time.
Yeah, I've heard this
not
from
nicely.
I've heard this from moms my whole life, actually. So it's like came to my like forefront of attention is, and I don't think it's talked enough about with women, is how much when you have especially like toddler age, baby into toddler age, and you always have physical touch with this child, that like it makes it really hard to want physical touch from anyone
hard to
else.
give it to your husband.
Yeah, because you
but
need that time apart.
I know that that's how he feels loved, and like, so I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess we can hug.
Yeah. Well, maybe like a
It
back
sounds
rub,
terrible.
holding hands, like on the couch
Yeah,
and stuff
holding
like
hands.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is very
So
interesting. I mean, it's also just physical touch is like high on mine though too. But I think sometimes people think of it like as intimacy, but it's more just like if we're on the couch, I want Frank to hold my foot, or
Yeah.
like I just want to be like close to him. So
Yeah.
physical time and physical touch together is real nice because I was like, we're just gonna sit together closely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we could do a whole one on love languages, because you know what else I've discovered about them is that like with time, because I think me, you, and my husband's are all like how we like to receive is time, but it's not all the same. Like quality time for me is like a deep conversation. Like, you know how we had a conversation the day and I was like, oh, good, quality time together. Connecting through like verbal connection. And then like for him, it's just if we're in the same room.
Yeah, that's kind of how mine is.
Yeah, you
Not
just
like
be near.
you. Like Frank, I just need to be like near you. And I will have like deep conversations with people, but I feel like I need to spend a certain amount of time just with you before I can get there.
Yeah. No, for me, if I like have a good conversation with someone, then I'm like, wow, that was quality. But if we're just sitting together and nothing happens, then I'm just like, all right.
Who are you?
Yeah, it doesn't count as quality time for me. Yeah. So that Frank had to learn that because we would just be like together. He's like, doesn't that count? I was like, no, sir. So you haven't put effort in. Anyway.
Back to twos.
Okay, so I love twos. We have to do a little disclaimer for twos. Women, the traits of a two, even though we're looking at motivation, you know, people still look at the traits. The traits of a two is exactly what America puts on women. So as a result, women test high as two. And there are women as twos, obviously. We know them. But if you test high as a two, as a female especially, you have got to look at your other numbers that are high up there too, like as well, because it's not, most people who test as twos aren't necessarily twos, because we're taught to be of service to others. So people think, well, I'm of service to others, I must be a two. But twos, it's not just about being of service to others. There's a lot. It's why they are of service to others. Yeah. And so like twos are very motivated by wanting to love. So they give what they want. And so they want to be loved and adored, and they feel like their presence isn't enough. So they are people who, I think a lot of nines sometimes test as twos. They are not service, altruistic, or passive. They are very much like, I am giving this to you and I need this back. And if they don't get it back, they will get very resentful and will start to feel like a martyr, in the sense of like, look at all I've done in this world and nobody's here for me, but I'm doing all this. And they'll keep showing up, but they also rub it in your face that they've like helped you, at least an unhealthy version. And so there's a lot more like, it's not just about helping, but they want to be seen helping, and they want you to know that they help. So if you're like thinking, if you test as a high, do you help, but you also need people to know, you're very more likely like insert yourself into people's lives pretty deeply, because you want that deeper connection. So they feel eventually like they can't live without you. That would be like bring joy to an average two. Is like, oh my God, these people could never without me because I am so helpful. And they're going to, I think, can be like your best friend immediately. Look, everybody likes twos, but they're not passive, meek people. They're very much like, I'm a two, I'm here to help, and you're going to know that I'm going to be your best friend and help you.
Yeah, twos are typically pretty social people. I mean, not always, but I would say on the whole, they're pretty social. They usually have a lot of friends, or they'll be like the closest, deepest, best friend.
Yeah, they're not going to be loners.
People. No. No. Even unhealthy twos, I feel like, still maintain maybe not a lot of deep friendships or quality friendships, but a lot of like friendships, acquaintances.
They're always going to have people around them.
They're all up in everyone's business.
Which,
in like a nice way.
Yeah, which everyone knows that person where you like meet them and then they make you feel so special. Twos have that power. They make you feel seen, they make you feel special, and then they just help you. And so you're like, man, if you need something done and you need help, like you ask a two. They're going to be like, I am here, I'm going to show up, we're going to do this, work together. It's just in the end, they also want you to recognize that they did all that work.
Yeah. Typically very charismatic people. I would say like, you might, if you're the type of person where you're like, people just tell me things, I just met them, you might be a two.
We talk about that with Frank a lot.
It happens with Frank all the time.
All the time. Like in the office, he'll sometimes, like we always get intimate information in our field, but sometimes people will tell him stuff. And I was like, how did that conversation even happen? Yeah. Like, how did someone just share that with you?
You just met them.
Yeah. Like that was only visit two, and you found out what about them? And he's like, yeah, they just love to share. And they do. Like people just tell him stuff. And because he creates such a safe environment, that people are like, of course I'm going to share this information. And the other thing, they're very generous people. When I met my husband, one of the very first things when we were talking about like planning our life together, he would be like, I want, like, his goals in life are how can he give back? And so he wants to have scholarships. He wants to donate to
fun.
charities. Yeah. His ideal world is, you know, as we go, it's like, how can we like donate more? How could we help somebody through school? How can we help local businesses and invest in them? He has a big drive through generosity.
You know what's so interesting is, so I was mistyped as a 2. And when Frank and I started working together.
For women, yeah.
For women, very common. You were like, you're not a 2, Skylar, because me and Frank are like similar, but also like starkly different. And what's funny that made me think of that is you said in Frank's ideal world, he would be super altruistic. You'd have abundance. You could just give it away. And in my ideal world, it would be like, you know, in the movie The Proposal, where like she goes back to his hometown in Alaska and it's all, his family has all of these like small businesses. That would be like my idea, like popping up all these small businesses that would support the community in a really holistic
but your
way.
name's on all of them and everybody knows that. And you're gonna also probably want to be recognized. And you want to be recognized. So he would want to be recognized for his good work, but he'd want it in like a sense of like, he doesn't want his name on everything. He would want it in the sense of an award. Does that make sense? Like we'd have a whole ceremony and be like, you are the best. Like, we love that.
Frank Day.
And just
Frank
like, thank you. Like, and like, but everyone's celebrating together. He's not like on a podium up by himself. It's like, we're all together and celebrating Frank. And he'd be like, yay. But for you would want to be like on a podium and be like, we're all celebrating Skylar. And that's a 3. The difference, because you're still very caring and altruistic, but it goes back to how it shows up. I can look up that motivation, which I never actually realized that you would want a town like that.
I would love that. Like, I wouldn't have to run every business, but to be able to like facilitate it so that like our community could have like those small businesses that, you know, supports like actual families.
Yeah. You know what's so funny is I would want something similar. Like, we'd all want a town that we have helped build, but I just want to be in charge of all the businesses to make sure they're doing it right.
What a trio we would be.
And
Where
he would be
town?
because Frank doesn't care about being in charge. He just wants to be helpful.
You could be the mayor.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. I think I always say I would be very good at being in charge of the world because I know I would be very fair.
You would be the most fair.
Yeah. And that would be, you know, that's an 8 when we get to that.
But we're also going to touch on 8s because 2s, when they're unhealthy, move to the not so pretty parts of 8s.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. Well, speaking of 2s, 2s are interesting because, like we talked about, when you meet them, like, you just feel love from them and, like, you just feel good and you feel like you can be yourself. And it's like, there's a lot of happiness and joy around 2s, especially when they're average to healthy, and they don't feel taken advantage of. In that scenario, they're just like everyone's best friend. Everyone loves having them around. They're going to be invited to every party. But then you also have the other side, which when you're looking to identify, I think this is very helpful, is always looking at like the darker side of the Enneagram. And a 2 struggles a lot with pride, self-deception, so they lie to themselves a lot, and they will actually be too involved in people's lives and manipulate. So that is a really big thing. Like, when you look at yourself, you're really unhealthy. Are you telling lies to make yourself look like the good guy and manipulating other people to do what you think they should be doing? And it's not really about them any longer, it's about you. And then they also, it's that whole need for attention, like the pride of like, I'm at service, but I also want you to know I'm at service and I want to be recognized for my service. And that's the darker side of 2s, and it can get dark, I think.
Yes. And I also, so if you remember back to our first or intro episode, every Enneagram type has their passions or their capital sin, and pride is the one of 2. And I think in particular 2s, and honestly the whole feeling triad, so 2, 3, 4. Oh, we are in the feeling triad now. We've shifted because ones we're thinking. They have a really hard time doing the like shadow work or the work, the self-improvement side of themselves, where they have to analyze the not so pretty parts, because you have to confront the things you're trying so hard to conceal. And the the emotion that this triad, so 2, 3s, and 4s really struggle with is shame. So you have kind of like a double whammy where it's like to do the work, you have to confront the stuff that makes you feel the most shameful. And so you're like, I'm just not.
And people naturally tend to hide shame. So they don't, I mean, part of it is like the thing. So 2s can feel worthless. And so that's part of their motivation, is to feel like they have worth in this world, and they do it through acts of service and showing up for you in different ways. And so shame is really interesting because, like, with shame, people tend to create what they call like a super ego to hide the shame. So they don't want to face their shame. They're going to like, let's put this over here and never face it. And then we'll create this ego of the pride comes in the sense of, and this is like a less average to lower health person. That's a 2 would say things like, you know, look how great I am. Look at all the work I do here. Look how much I help people. Everyone should be appreciative of everything I do, because they would have nothing if it wasn't for all the work that I do. And you're going to see that show up. But all of that is really a facade for that sense, that huge fear of not feeling like they're valued or worthwhile or worthy. And so they have this whole shame of like, maybe I'm not really like valuable in this world. And so they create that value, and then they hide their shame and that fear through the pride.
Yeah. So worthiness for the whole feeling triad is going to be kind of like a reoccurring theme. And 2s feel worthy when they receive love.
They do. They definitely need that. They need validation. Until they, unless they're like their healthiest side, then they could be like, give themselves that validation. And that's what you're working towards. If you're a 2, you are working towards self-validation, the knowledge that
not
you
needing
are
it from the external.
Yeah, the knowledge that you do enough, you are enough. You don't have to kill yourself to get through service to get rewarded, because 2s will ignore their own needs. So that's where this resentment comes in, and the pride and the like, the frustration of like, if I'm going to be ignoring my needs for your needs, you better at least recognize that. Because when, like in certain situations, they might be like, okay, let's say you're doing like, we have to all throw a party together. A 2 is going to be like, okay, I'll do the balloons. I'm going to set up here. I'm going to help clean. And they will do every task, just like constantly, da, 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 da. And then they also have to show up and socialize and make sure that everyone's happy at the party. And so like, if we have people over, like I have to remind Frank, like, hey, it is like, it's not your job to make sure everyone's having a good time. They just are. So they feel like this, not only do they have to do all the behind the scenes work, they have to show up and then make sure every single person, is their job to make sure every single person is happy and feels included and loved. And that's a lot to put on a person. And so as a result, they'll like, okay, well, even if I have this need, we're not going to address that need because this person might need this. And so big growth will come when you start to say, hey, what are my needs? And you start to fulfill those needs.
Yeah. It's hard work.
But that's why we love the Enneagram, because like when you start, like the whole point of this is so you can understand like, where am I at? And then where do I need to go? And then you start applying this. So if you're like, man, I have been known to insert myself in people's lives, give. And then I get like, if you notice because this is looking at your own patterns in your life. Like if you're a 2, you're going to see this show up and be like, oh my God, I've done that. So if you're like, hey, I've like lost friends because like I met them, immediately we're best friends. I show up, and then I'm mad at them because they don't show up. So then I have a big conversation, a huge argument, because an unhealthy 2 will show up sometimes like an 8, which will be like big energy. And then that person's like, whoa, where did this all come from? And then that friendship can disappear. And then 2s have to go through that, like, oh my gosh, I lost this friend, and there's a lot to it. But like, you know, if you notice that pattern of you doing that, you're probably a 2. But once you know the pattern, then that's when you start to do this work of like, okay, how do I show up differently? How do I show up for someone and not abandon myself? And that, when you can start working through that, that's when you become like the best version of a 2, which is like so great.
Yeah. Because I also find that 2s can sometimes become, I also agree this with 3s as well, like chameleons. So for example, you're dating someone and all of a sudden their interests are your interests, Or you like someone and you know that they like French poetry, and then you like research it, and then you tell them all about French poetry, and they're like, oh, I love French poetry. So, it's like kind of,
You know how
you're adopting what they like.
Yes, but it does look a little bit different because nines are probably the most chameleon where they actually like will become that. Twos will do it where it's like if this is
You're
your
not
interest.
becoming it.
Yeah, so twos will like show up. So like for example, if I here's a great example. I love reading. Frank did not come into our relationship as like an avid reader, but I was like, this matters to me if we have like a couple, like an hour a day that we end our day reading, because that's just how like, I want to function. And he's like, okay, like because this matters to you, his service will be, I'm going to show up and read. And he's picked up that hobby now. Now it took us like 2 years to find books that he loves, but he like stuck with it and would show up. But he also did not always share his own interests with me. So it was always about my interests. And then he would like repress his own. So for example, like he likes anime and
I did not know this.
because it's not pertinent. It's not pertinent for you to know. So these are like sides of him. And he likes, he goes to CrossFit. He's a very avid CrossFitter. And so like in our relationship, I have to be more aware of like, and more like conscious, like what are his interests that he's not actually revealing to me. It's taken me sometimes years to find out certain things are his interests, and he'll participate in his own like hobbies privately. And then like he'll participate in all of my stuff. I like gardening. Guess who loves to garden now? Frank does. Like I need help around the house. He's going to help around the house. He, if I need this for work and we're going to show up to this event, he's showing up to that event. Mm-hmm. And then as we've grown in this couple and I've understood twos better, now it's like, okay, there's a show that he likes. And now I like it too, but like I had to be open to learning about what his interests are and participating in them as well. But it takes like that conscious
them out.
Yeah, because twos are going to like abandon themselves for others. So he's like doing it on the side and then like participating fully in like my interests. And it's very interesting because like a part of our growth as a couple also is like him being like in this couple is not abandoning himself for service to me. And so as like, if you're married to a two, you have to be aware of like, one, don't take advantage of their goodwill. And two, like, taking time to be like, well, what are you actually interested in? Because they have their interests, they're just not telling you because they don't want to be an inconvenience to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess what I was referring to more than like being a chameleon is the abandoning themselves.
Yeah.
To show that they love you with your interests.
Yeah. And they do repress also if they get hurt. So like if you are like a best friend with a two or like they're in your life, if they're hurt, they will definitely suppress it. So they do two things. They'll either suppress it and really not share it with you and just like be hurt like over on the side, or it'll show up where they're hurt, but they're not going to let you know because it might not be of service to you, but they might show up with more pride and like more ego base. So if you see a very ego based two or you are one, you are hiding a hurt that you have.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what twos kind of looks like in childhood, or maybe what they experienced during their childhood. I actually think, so my dad's a two, your dad was a two too, and your sister's a two.
I have a lot of twos.
You have a lot of twos.
I do have a lot of twos. I guess I could also talk about how that shows up because they weren't always healthy twos and they have different wings.
Oh, they do? Was your dad a four wing?
Yeah,
like not a four wing, a two with a.
I think my dad was the same as Frank, a two with a three. But my sister's a two with a one wing, I believe. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think my dad's a two with a. Actually, he might be a two with a one. He's kind of anal.
Yeah. Well, they're. I don't think they're as. I mean, like both are really social, but I think two with ones just have a. Well, we'll get to the wings in a minute.
Yeah. But let's talk about their childhood. What I was going to say was I feel that the childhood feelings of twos are kind of like sad. I know in our opening episode, I was like, wow, these are the hurts of the child Enneagrams are really sad. And this one I feel like is like extra sad.
I think because you're the thick of motherhood, you're like also very attuned. Like, how is everything influencing my child?
How am I damaging my child right now?
Well, yeah. Which we had to talk, it's not really damaging. It's just like how, because we all have different things. Yeah, and how it shows up. But I think we think your child's a 7, right?
I think he's going to be a 7. We'll have to wait to see.
Yeah.
Even my mom was like, when I was on the phone with her the other day, she was like, he is going to be a thrill seeker.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I know. It stresses me out.
But, different Enneagrams could seek thrills. Like, Frank would love to jump out of planes if I was okay with that.
Please don't ever do that, Frank.
Yeah, I never want him to do that. He's getting ready to leave for the gym, but I know he's listening. So yeah, 2s are interesting because when we did the Enneagrams, Frank and I did discuss a lot about what it's like to be a 2 as a child, and I think it is there. I don't know if it's like a sadness, but there is this sense of like duty to family. Mm-hmm. And making sure it's not like about creating peace, but making sure everyone's taken care of and happy. And yes. 2 children are like, okay, they're so like hyper aware of the people's needs around them that it's like a vigilance, which has to be hard in the nervous system.
Yeah, exhausting. The adrenal fatigue. But yeah, so during childhood, 2s start to believe a couple different things. They start to believe they need to put others' needs in front of their own. They feel that they need to give in order to receive, whether that be like love or affection or anything like that. And then that they have to earn their place for affection in others because they believe that they simply won't be loved or have affection for just being there, being themselves.
Well, since I grew up with my sister, with her in childhood, she inserted herself in everybody's life. And she also knows everything about everybody. If you ever need to know anything about our small town and the people in it, she could tell you.
2s can be very prone to gossip. Mm-hmm. Because it makes them feel closer to other people.
Mm-hmm. And they insert themselves into people's lives, so they just know stuff. Yeah, they ask all the questions. And so, my sister wasn't the healthiest 2 growing up because she was, I would describe as mean. And I tell her. And, but, she wanted to be the most loved in the household. And so having siblings, if you feel like another sibling might be getting more love than you, she felt very offended by that. So if like she felt like I was getting more love than her, she would be like, that's not acceptable. She wanted to be the most loved. But she would also like if there was guests over, she would go around and talk to every single guest and be like, oh my gosh, hello, how are you? I'm Rachel. People would be like, what a charming child. Mm-hmm. And I, on the other hand, was like, I am not talking to these adults. Like, they have no power over me. I'm going to be in the corner doing my own thing. But like, even now when I look at Rachel interact, she can be so charming. Frank can too. Mm-hmm. They're so charming. They remember everything about people and they make them feel so seen. And that develops. Like Rachel started, like I distinctly remember her as a child being like that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're not always aware of their own needs being met. And then they have a lot of anger about that.
Yes, because everyone needs that validation, but so much more for 2s. Yeah, it's kind of funny. There's so many 2s in our lives. But my dad, so growing up, he was the 4th of 5 children, and his mom was mean. But my mom will even be like, Jim was the forgotten child, like ignored. Oh. So he like just wanted love. And if you met my dad now, you would be like, yeah, he's awesome. Everyone loves him. Very social. He wants to be like, he recently retired, but he like wanted to be like the popular guy at work, which he was.
2s love being popular. It's very important to them.
Like when we would go to the grocery store, he would know all these people and stop to talk to them, and it drives my mom crazy.
Well, that's how it was going to like if we went to dinner as a family growing up, my dad would walk by and know everybody at every table and be like, "Hey, Jim, what's up?" and shake the hand, and they'd have these mini conversations. Makes them
feel so good.
Yes. And so like anybody if he met anyone in a room even once, he'd walk up and be like, hey, and like talk to them, shake their hand, and like made them feel seen. But with all of that, something, especially as like a child, this is a really interesting side I don't think is talked about enough with 2s, is I think they struggle knowing what they like.
100%.
I think 2s struggle a lot with their own opinion. I think they can identify what other people like. I think they have a very hard time knowing if they like something. Mm-hmm. Even Frank with movies, he's like, I'm a bad movie critic. I like everything. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way you like everything. You do. You are a movie. You can be a movie critic. It's just you're taught from a really young age to not have your own interest because it could put someone else out. The interest of twos, I think, even as a child, is other people. And so, like, I see this in my sister a lot. She, only in her late 30s, early 40s, has started to find hobbies that she likes. It's taken her that long because she would participate in things other people like, or how do we serve other people, instead of having her own interests. And finally, she like loves sourdough bread, and she
It's her thing. She's great at it.
she's so good at it.
I'm honestly really impressed.
I am too. Well, it's funny because
I
she's not a
cannot.
great cook. Yeah. And then one day she's like, I make sourdough bread, and it is honestly like people will be like, this is the best bread I've ever had, and they're not like. She loves it. She still does it. She sells it, like all the things. So if you need it and you're in Florida, please hit my sister up. But like she didn't really discover her own interests until her adulthood. And she started healing and becoming a better version of herself because as a child, she would do what would be most popular, what other people were doing, but she wanted to be a part of the crowd.
Yeah. For my dad, it was like everything his brothers were doing, his older brothers. Good and bad.
Yeah. Yeah, to be a part of it. Frank has an older cousin. He would just sort of, I feel like as a kid, follow along to do what they were doing.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting is like making other people feel seen is in a self-abandonment is, since I always wonder what he feels like when I'm talking about him. He's right here. The other thing that he does, like Frank's really talented and like really good at stuff. So he can be like a winner at almost everything. But sometimes in competition, he does not go as hard as he could to make others feel included.
I would never do that.
I know. I know. It's just something I've observed because at first I'd be like, because he'll be like, yeah, I'm not a bad, like a sore winner or a sore loser. And I was like, that's so interesting because like you can win at everything, like with the exception of basketball, you are good at everything. And I'm not even joking. Like when I mean, he's like good at everything. He's just a very talented person, but like he doesn't boast those talents the way like a 3 would, or like I would as an 8, like I want you to know that I can dominate you.
Or like if I'm bad at something, I just don't do it.
You want to? Oh yeah,
I would never.
He will downplay his own skills for camaraderie, and I'm always go out and kick their ass, babe. Let's go.
Yeah.
But I think privately,
That's nice.
Yeah, but privately, I think he's more like he'll be like, yeah, I did really good at CrossFit, but he's not going to be out and be like, I did better than all y'all, you know? Like, yes, who's on top? And I would totally do that. An unhealthy version of me would. But he's like, he'll do it privately. Like, he'll come to me. He's like, you'd be really proud. And in a way, it's even still, like, self-abandonment of himself for, like, my pride of him or, you know, the comfort of everybody else. So they all feel, like, accepted and included.
Oh, right.
I
Can't
know.
be mad at him.
I know. I just find it so fascinating with twos that they're like that. You know, where I don't think my sister's very boastful. She doesn't like to lose, but she's not like boastful in that sense.
No, I've never gotten that vibe from her.
No, she's more concerned about other people.
Yeah.
That might explain as a kid why she didn't like me as much, because I was definitely like, I will win at everything we do. As it goes.
I think we're also just very different people.
Yeah.
The most different.
It is interesting. But if you have a 2 child, I personally think one of the best things you could do for them is just letting them have the space to have their own, like, interest and, like, explore that. And then also just letting them know that they are loved even when they're not doing anything. Like, it's very easy for a 2 child if they're helping, like, oh, you're such a good helper, thank you, because it's like things we value. I think it's so important to also be like, you're so good just as you are. You don't always have to be the helper. You can just be good at anything else you're doing.
Yeah.
Or
I love
being.
you.
Yeah, that's it.
For you.
Yes. You are accepted exactly where you are. And you're loved for who you are.
Yeah. Which I do think there is more in like the parenting world, there's more awareness of that kind of movement than saying like, you're so good because you were so quiet in church and sat so still. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're not like saying your child is good because of X, Y, and Z they do, or you love them because of X, Y, and Z. It's more just like you.
Yeah. Yeah, which thank goodness we're having that movement, because when you let people know they're good or bad based on the actions they have, like, or they're it's not good about it, worthy of love based on the actions that they can give you is like,
It's where we
not
get
good.
complexes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you instill trauma in your child.
So let's try not to do
Yeah,
that.
let's not do that. But as like also in a relationship with a 2 or anything, you just got to let them know you love them for who they are, and that like they don't have to be of service to you to be worthy of that love. Okay, let's talk about the wing types, because this can be very influential. A 2 with a 1 wing, which this is what I think my sister can be, but they're a little more serious. They're not as like jovial. So I feel like these people will take things in life a little more serious and their service to others more seriously. So they actually, at their best, can be like the person, like Mother Teresa is a great example of this. Like they're going to be out here serving, and like they're going to do it in any condition. And they'll do it in a way because they just feel like they have to be of service to others in this like, what's the word I'm looking for? And just like more of a humbling way, where it's not really about where people need to see you,
like,
but it's like,
look at me.
Yeah, it's that there is suffering in this world, and I have the ability to help it not suffer as much. So I'm going to show up and help that. They also struggle a lot where they might feel like they're very selfish people, and that's something wrong with them. And so they're like, okay, I have to overcome the selfishness of me to give to others.
Yeah, you'll often see them as caretakers, service, like you said, Mother Teresa, very much service oriented. So that's usually the type of work they would gravitate towards. Although you could really, any type can have any type of profession. You just typically would see them more like that.
Yeah. And another example would be like the founder of the Red Cross. She was
Is that Florence Nightingale?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's a 2 with a 1.
Like,
where
did I know that?
Yes. Isn't it funny the stuff we're taught like in the back of our heads?
It's there.
It's there. So she is a 1 with a 2, where they're going to be very service oriented.
2 with a 1 or a 1 with a 2?
Sorry, 2 with a 1.
Okay.
2 with a 1. And the interesting thing about these guys also are they really want to be like significant in someone's life. They're going to have like a little bit of a more intimate group, but they want to be like, they want to be significant. They want to, it's not even about being seen. It's about knowing they're impacting someone's life. So even if it's as simple as they're the caretaker, they're going to show up and be that caretaker and take it very seriously, that they're impacting someone's life through caring for them.
Yes. So we had talked earlier about how like the 2s can get really close, and it can be like the very popular person, have big circles. So the 2 with the 1 wing is going to be like have a really close knit circle, people that like they're your like ride or die best friend, and they'll do anything for you. Whereas I think the 2 with the 3 wing would be like more of like a bigger group.
Yeah. And the
like
2 with the
circle.
And the 2 with the 1 also are the most likely to abandon themselves for other people. So they have to be really conscious of like, I have my own needs that need to be met. And they might even like writing down the needs you have that need to be met and being aware of them is going to be big. And they're also, when they're unhealthy, will be the most likely to be a martyr. Look at everything I've done. I have changed people's lives and I'm not appreciated. So they're going to, but the self-abandonment shows up a lot. I really feel like if you are 2 with a 1, one of your biggest growths can be to identify your needs and make sure they're fulfilled every day.
That's going to be a common theme with 2s.
Yeah. But
to work on your needs.
Yes. But a 2 with a 3 is interesting because they're more the host and hostess, like you talked about. They are going to be the people that show up at a party and make sure everyone's taken care of. So they're like, while you might see like a 2 with a 1 be more independent in the sense of like, I'm taking care of this one person or this one like pathway, where they're showing up as like the main caretaker. With a 3, they're looking at socially being the caretakers. So if you're around them, let's say you work with them, they're going to make sure you're happy. They want to know you're happy, that you're doing well. And they're very outgoing. And this group is going to be where they show up, where they really want love.
Yeah. They're the coworker that's like organizing like the happy hour get together.
Yeah. Yeah, they're also. I think this is where you get that stereotype of the charming two comes in. Is they're taking out the two with a three wing, because a two with a one wing can be a little more serious, and a little calmer energy. Why this two with a three is like, we are gonna be. I'm gonna make sure you are entertained. That's that three coming in. I want you to like have a show when you come over. So not only do I want you to have good service, I want you to like be like, yeah, we're having a good time.
Really enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And they also have more ambition. So you're going to see these people more in the business world, I think, when they're going to show up and be like, okay, I'm of service to others, but I have this bigger ambition, where that three really
The three push. Yeah.
push. Yeah. And they can be
Trying to think
also
of a good
more
example
direct.
for this. Yes, they can definitely.
Like Frank's
Trying
more
to
of a
think.
direct communicator than my sister.
Yeah. For sure. I couldn't think of a good example for this. Not even like a fictional one.
Of a person?
Yeah. Of a two with a three wing.
I mean,
That people would be like, oh yeah, that
yeah.
person.
It's hard because it's the people I know. I say my dad
Yeah.
and my your dad probably, and
My
then
dad.
my husband. So yeah, so I would say
You
a
probably
good,
know one.
yeah, they're the people that are throwing great parties, very helpful, but also they do have a little bit of an ego. Not a little bit. They can be very egotistical, where they like the self-importance when they're not as like self-intuned. We'll quickly go over the instincts, because this also influences. This is that going deeper. So the self-preservation instinct.
Well, there's three. Do you want to name them quick?
Yeah,
Because it's the
so-
same as one's.
Yeah, so everyone will have these instincts that influence them. It's self-preservation, social, and sexual instincts.
Right.
And these are going to each show up. And you're going to see how they show up similarly and influence similarly with each number. So I don't think we have to spend as much time if you listen to past podcasts on it. But a self-preservation, they are people who are very in tune one-on-one, taking care of people, but they abandon themselves a lot. And they do, like, for example, they're going to want to entertain, but they might not be entertained themselves. They're going to want to cook for you, but they might forget to cook for themselves. They might show up in postpartum and help clean your house, but their house might be abandoned and not cleaned. So you're going to see this weird duality with these people, where self-preservation in many Enneagrams shows up to help themselves and make sure they're taken care of, while self-preserving twos actually abandon themselves more than any other instinct.
Mm-hmm. And this variant has an issue with like entitlement. So their self-sacrifice is a form of like entitlement. Like, look at like putting themselves above.
Well, they're going to want to be singled out and given better privileges
sure.
because so that
self-sacrifice.
entitlement, like, I've done all these things. So for example,
Therefore, I deserve XYZ,
Yeah, and it could even be like if they come over and help clean your house postpartum, like that example. So in return, down the road, their repayment might be if they get a special invite to something, or are acknowledged in a really special way that other people might be left out, so it can be more exclusive, and they get that privilege because they want people to repay their sacrifice.
Yes, and a lot of times they can rely on like manipulation tactics or like making people feel guilty.
Yeah. The unhealthy side is they'll be like self-important, and then they are most likely to neglect themselves physically. So these are people
forgetting
who
to eat.
or even overeating too.
Overeating.
So
eating
gluttony
poorly.
tends to be the sin of the twos, where because they're not in tune with themselves, they're going to be like not focused on nourishment, but not in tune if they're full or not in tune if they're satisfied or not. So you'll see overeating with this group a lot.
What
all
I've
twos in
also
general.
noticed with some twos, when they're in an unhealthy state, is that they can rely on like outside substances. Like for my dad, for example, smokes because he like
My
needs
dad was a
that.
smoker. He didn't pick it up
Yeah,
till he
I
was
think
35.
Our dads were very similar.
I think we talked about this before. I think they're like
Yeah.
the same person.
And he would drink. Alcohol makes him very, very ill, but he would drink
Yeah.
if
My
it did
dad
it,
struggled with substance abuse on and off.
Yeah.
It does show up. It's that self-abandonment and not able to. I'm glad
You
Frank
gotta fill
doesn't
the
have any of
void
that. Yeah.
in some way, and they tend to pick vices.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes they'll hide it. My dad is very sneaky.
Oh, Oh,
Did your dad hide it?
Not, I think so, yes. So, like, a lot of people didn't know. Yes. So, okay. So, I always say, like, because he was a social instinct, so everybody knew him, everybody loved him, and he has passed away. And if you've listened to some of our other podcasts, I've talked about this. He was not always best at home, so you're not hiding it at home. But, like,
Right.
to the public, there's people who still don't know that he had, like, he smoked.
Those struggles. Yeah.
Yeah, or that he had gone, like, he was public about, like, when he went to rehab before and he was public about it. Interestingly enough, it made people love him even more. Like, I'm overcoming this, and people were like, yes, and it was like probably a two's like favorite thing. But a lot of it was, there was deceit in it and how people perceived it. So it was a manipulation in how people would perceive him. And so, like, sometimes patients, because we still have some of his old patients that come in, they'll share things and I'll be like, oh, that's like wildly not accurate of who my dad is. But it's, I mean, it's true to them, but like,
Right.
it just
That was their
wasn't.
experience.
Yeah. But like, if you're really looking at more of an objective, like who this person was, like, no, that's like not who he was. He was very altruistic and giving, but he was definitely like,
Expected something in return.
yes, or he would feel like he wasn't getting enough appreciation from, like, say us as a family. Like, he would work, provide, but he was like, we were ungrateful to him because he didn't get the love he felt he deserved.
Felt he needed. Yeah.
Yeah. But then going into the social instincts, which both of our parents
probably
were,
had, yeah.
this is the person who's everyone's friend that we talked about. So this person is going to have a pretty strict calendar where they are doing social events, they're showing up, they're hosting, they're having people over. They like being popular, and they find validity in the more people that know them. So the more popular they are, the more they're like, I am loved. Mm-hmm. So their social group matters to them the most.
They have FOMO real bad. They don't want to be left out. Even for like stupid stuff. Like, I know my dad will be like, my mom is very independent, and if she wants to do something, she'll just do it. And my dad will be like, but I want to be with you too. And she's like, no.
Yeah,
you're not going to miss anything.
It is interesting because your mom's an 8. Your mom and your dad are like a reflection of like myself and Frank.
Yeah, but I don't. They don't do like the self. Not that my parents are really unhealthy, but I would say like they're their average types.
Yeah, they could be healthier versions. Yeah. I think maybe that generation doesn't work as hard on this, but it's interesting because like because I'm very independent, and I'll have to be like, early in our relationship, Frank would be like, well, this is important to me, and I'd be like, really? And I'd be like, have to now be conscious that like, oh, like if I go run an errand, it's quality time for him. He is totally happy coming along. While like if he wants to go run an errand, I'm like, go run it, go do your thing, boo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like he actually, like, for him, part of feeling loved is like me showing up and like doing those things, and it was like a big lesson learned.
I actually think 2s and 8s are a really good match for like the Enneagram.
Not if they're unhealthy.
I was going to say, you do have to be very conscious of each type, because like my dad will regularly say like, my mom hurts his feelings.
Yes. We had to work through that because like my bluntness would be hurtful to Frank. Initially, he's fine with it now because he's like, I understand that you're not coming from a spot of hurtful. It's just so forward. While 2s will make sure, like, does my voice sound right when I'm talking to someone? Am I saying the right words to make them feel comfortable?
Everything.
Yes. And while I'm just like, this is how it is. He's actually a lot blunter with me now, though. So it's like we've rubbed off, and I'm much softer now. Yeah. So we've like rubbed off. The most interesting thing I think, though, about the social instinct 2s is that they love to be in a position of giving advice. So you might see this come out in like the sense of like a spiritual advisor. They're going to be like being even in the field that, we're
like
in.
A counselor. I feel like youth group leader, anything where they can be like,
even like financial advisors, like even if they're not like certified for any of this kind of stuff or qualified, they want to be in a position of like, I'm your advisor and I'm going to help guide you, because that's going to be my role now. And so that I find really interesting, because I read that, I was like, oh my God, yeah, I know every 2 with this like social instinct is like this. They're all in this position where like, let me help advise, and that's my way of service to like my whole community, is I would be that person.
And then the last one is the sexual instinct of the two. And these people just really want intimacy. And it doesn't have to be physical, although it can be, but it's like emotional as well. Like they really, really want to be close to people.
Yeah. Like most sexual instincts, this is going to be a smaller inner circle. And this is going to show up more one-on-one relationships. And there's also the more like seduction with things. And that can even be like solving problems to bring people in, and maybe more manipulation will be seen in this group. And also some more jealousy. Like, I'm showing you all this love. I am expecting this all back in return. And so this is when you talked about when we talked about the like hobbies and abandoning oneself, this is also the most likely type to be like, oh, you're interested in this? Me too. You want to go, if you love horses, I love horses now. If you love going to the gym, I also love going to the gym. And so
these people, I feel like, they're very good at seeing what other people like or love, and like they can make you fall in love with them, I think, pretty easily. Now,
yeah,
if it's not like genuine or like good, it would never be like super deep, but initially you'd be like, wow, this person's wonderful, they're so charismatic.
Yeah. And twos of all this, they can make anyone love them, but the instinct, like, they'll make people actually fall in love with them. But let's use this now. So the whole point of the Enneagrams is, how do we become better versions of ourselves, right? Yeah. And so for twos, I think like for all the Enneagram, if you start to notice a pattern in your life, you can start to disrupt that pattern to become a better version of you. So that's what, when we look at these different traits, it's not really about, am I of service to others or not? It's, do I have a pattern of being of service to people and then feeling abandoned or abandoning myself? And so you will see a cycle of this show up on every aspect. As a child, you're going to see it in your, middle school, you're going to see it in high school, you're going to see it as a young adult, and it can look different in each phase of life. But we want to start looking at these patterns. And so when you're a two, the pattern you want to look for is, are you being very generous, but with the expectations of something in return? And so when you can start to recognize yourself, or somebody who can like, sometimes an unhealthy two might look for someone's insecurities and use them as a way to manipulate them to be closer. When you can start to say, oh, I do that, and identify when and how you do it, and that's when you can start to make these changes so you can develop new patterns. And two's best self is going to be where they can freely love who they want to love without expecting anything in return. And the best part of a healthy two, and what you're really ultimately looking for, is that you are the person who can give yourself the love you're craving. So self-love, and actually more time on yourself, even though pride and ego seems to be like an issue for twos, the more twos can be like, what do I like? What am I interested in? What are my passions in life? And then the acceptance of, I'm loved just how I am. Like, I don't have to perform for anyone. I don't have to be of service. I can just be myself, and people will still love me. And when you can come to that conclusion, you have reached like the pinnacle health of a two.
Yeah. So that's your goal.
That is the goal.
That's your goal.
Because a lot of twos, I think the biggest thing that they question, like when they're going through this, and like where they're going to hit like these like marks of like, I don't know, like, stress while they're working on their personal development, is that question. The unspoken question will be, am I still going to be loved even if I'm not generous and giving? And the answer is yes.
Yeah. It's so much easier said than done. And I would say, like, as a reminder, it's so easy to list like, oh yeah, this is what you're going for. I would say the majority of the population is walking around as an average, or maybe like average unhealthy type. It is hard to get to like the true like healthy level. And even if you get there, you're going to dip down into average. You know what I mean? You're not going to be up here 100% of the time.
Yeah. And you're going to know certain stressors you might move, but it's like always be aware of those patterns so you can move to the highest version. Because like for twos, I mean, they're just like wonderful people, but like with anything, they just need to get out of their own way and recognize, like, so you can also start like asking yourself questions like, am I giving this money because I want people to see me giving this money to a charity, or do I really love this cause and it's close to my heart?
Or
You know,
you're
it's-
starting to have feelings of like you're feeling really resentful towards a
Yeah.
lot of people. Like that's a warning sign.
Or even recognizing how you're showing up for yourself. If you're like, wow, I have binged eat like all my meals, I will not eat and then I'll just eat a ton, like a whole day's worth at night. Or I will only eat sweets and no healthy food. Those are like also physical ways to start identifying like self-abandonment, because when you're like going this up and down, which twos tend to do, of like, okay, I'm doing, I'm not going to eat at all because I'm so busy. And then they come home and they're like, oh my God, privately, I'm trying to like gorge myself because I'm, having all these other feelings I'm not, because self-abandonment you're not dealing with. And so they use food as a big one, or other substances if you're abusing drugs, things like those. Sometimes average twos can also be doing these things because of the twos doing self-abandonment. When you can start to recognize that and take that in control too, I think it can help with that growth, because to heal something like that, you have to become self-aware and love yourself more.
For sure. Do you think Princess Diana was a 2?
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say she's probably a 2 with a 1.
Yeah. She was great.
Yeah, she was of service to people for sure. And you can see that, like, especially like as she moved post-divorce or whatever, and like she gave to a lot of charities and she showed up a lot, actually, even in the middle of all of it. I don't know, I feel like she has such a complicated life.
Yeah, her husband sucked.
Speak ill of the crown, my goodness.
We're not British.
I definitely think she was one. The other thing is for twos. Now, this is like going to be like a hard thing for your growth. It's going to be boundaries. Twos have no boundaries. They will merge into your life. They are, if they were to be an element, they would be water.
Water. I was going to say
They're just going to like flow into whatever container you're holding. Or maybe if they're an animal, they're a cat.
Is Frank's sign a water sign?
He's water holder. He's air.
Oh, he's air.
Yeah, he's an Aquarius.
My dad's a water sign. Pisces.
My dad was a water sign too.
Oh my gosh.
They really are. What month was your dad born in?
February 10th.
No, he's an Aquarius then. They're not water, they're air.
Oh. Okay, then he's air.
Yeah, they're water holders. I know, which is weird. I know, it's super weird. No, my dad was born in July, so Cancer. They're water.
Ah.
My sister's a Cancer too. She's June.
But your mom is a Cancer as well.
Yeah, I had a lot of water signs, and then my brother and I are fire, so our house was weird.
Steamy.
Very steamy, yes. Yes. Waters get really stressed by fire. I think my brother and I can really stress out the rest of the family.
Your parents,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so the other thing with twos, just to go back to them, they can be very judgmental as well. Not the same as ones, but more in the sense of like they're judging how people respond to the service they're giving. So twos are really interesting because it's like a one's just going to be judgmental if you're like morally fitting into what they think is right or wrong. Well, like a two is going to be judgmental in the sense is your response proper to the love I'm giving you?
Yeah.
And I found that really
how is
fascinating.
anyone supposed to know?
Yeah, they won't. They won't.
You're setting them up for failure.
Yes. But going back to the boundaries. So twos, to move into your healthier side, you cannot, one, overstep other people's boundaries. Other people's boundaries are not mean to you or cruel. They're just a way, there's something to be respected for sure. They just are. And so that's okay. And the second thing is, as a two, you need to set boundaries. You need to know when you're letting other people into your life, like, what you're okay with. And I think twos, because they feel like they have to be of service to others, struggle with the boundaries because they don't want to put someone out or feel like they're not serving someone. But like, if you, especially as like a female, because you get the double whammy of society being like, you have to do all the two traits. So if you are a two and you are cleaning for your family, you're doing all the stuff, caring for every single person, it is okay to say, hey, the next hour is my hour and everyone leave me alone. You're allowed to put that boundary up. You're allowed to have times that you go to the gym, like, hey, this is my time to go do my hobby. Those boundaries are literally going to save you and help you with self-respect, because lack of boundaries is lack of self-respect. So you have to, as a two, put your own boundaries up.
And that'll help you in your relationships as well. Like friendships, like professional, romantic, all of those.
Yeah. And we did talk about, the twos. I don't think we talked about twos going to like a 4 versus a.
No, we didn't touch
Oh my
on that
gosh.
at
Well, let's do
all.
that quickly as we round everything out.
When twos are in an unhealthy state, like we talked about before, there's ways of integration and disintegration on the Enneagram diagram. So twos, when they're unhealthy, are going to look similar to an 8. So a little more bombastic or strong.
I think twos hold it all in and then explode.
Yeah, like a long fuse, big boom kind of thing.
Yes, they're going to be more blunt, they're going to be more direct, and they're going to be like more manipulative in the sense of like my needs aren't being met,
and that really comes up.
Yeah. And so they're going to also go into like they can be like controlling and domineering when they're unhealthy, because it's like they gave, and now they're like, well, I'm taking control of the situation because you didn't show up how you're supposed to. And so you're going to now see me and know what my needs are, because you obviously aren't capable of doing it yourself, kind of thing. And they also do not do well with crisis without support. Like twos need support. So if they're feeling like abandonment, or like abuse, even as like a child, you're going to see them actually go into a fearful state, which you do see more explosions and aggression. And they can look really mean at this point. And this is like a really bad side. But they, they're going to be one, fully delusional. Like the worst side of a two, if you go to when you're at your absolute worst, you're going to see things like they're going to lie to themselves a lot. So they do everything and they're not at fault of anything, but everybody else is the problem. They're going to be very entitled. Like, I am owed this. I deserve this. They're also going to be the manipulation and coercion of other people to do what they want. And then they might go in and out of like giving extreme love and then taking it all away. So they can be very intense, and their aggression can be very uncomfortable, because like I said in the beginning, like twos are not as passive as everyone sometimes makes them out to be. I think they come across like they are just like easygoing, fun, because they want to be popular and with everyone. But like twos, if they are pushed into a corner and not doing well and not feeling like they're getting appreciated and loved, they can go to a very dark spot, and they can be very big, loud, blunt personalities that are very uncomfy for most people around them.
Yeah, but on the flip side, in a healthy integration, twos are going to look similar to like fours. They're going to have a really creative energy. Welcoming.
Yeah, you know what I like most about this is fours are independent, and a two, when they're trying to be so helpful and inserting themselves in someone's life, it goes back to the boundaries. The healthiest version of them is like that, the independence of a four, and that their own, when talking about like creativity, it's that acknowledgement of their own gifts and what they really like and don't like in this world.
Yeah. So that's hard. It's hard to get there, but it's definitely, and twos, like, you'll be able to see it. Like, Frank is definitely, I think, a creative person, and I see him as being independent now.
I think he's very independent now, but I think it's also like we did a lot of work on that, because like part of our relationship was like we talked about, he will like merge into my life, but now we don't really have the issue now because we've done a lot of Enneagram work and talked about it. But like I'll even ask him questions like, is this something you want? Or is it because you think I want it? And even when we're making decisions like where to go for dinner, something simple, he will be like, one of his big things he'll be like is he'll give me like 5 or 6 options. And I'm like, I am so overwhelmed with options. And he's like trying to guess what I want for dinner and not really giving me what he wants. And so it's like, even once we make a decision, he'll be like, let's say we're like, oh, we're going to go to this place for sushi. And like, we could be getting ready to walk out of the house. And he'll be like, okay, do you want to go to the steakhouse though? Because he's still unsure if I'm happy. And I'm like, once we make a decision, I'm happy. Like we can move forward. But like, it's that constant need of like, yes, I'm going to be like, showing up for this person and like asking these questions. So like when they get healthier and they're more like independent, which Frank is like there and even moving closer to, it's like then they're like, well, I would really like sushi tonight, and there's no fear that they're gonna like not be loved if I don't respond and be like, I don't want that either, you know what I mean? It's like, okay,
my dad would never pick a restaurant. he'd be like, you guys pick.
It's too much.
Drives
It's
us
too much.
crazy.
Yeah. And you might see this in nines too, but the motivation behind it's different. See, if a two is struggling making a decision, it's because they're thinking about what the right decision is for other people's happiness and their perception versus like a nine might not. We'll get to this, but like they're really indecisive. And I think it's because they just don't know. They're just like,
Yes.
I don't even have a clue what the right answer, or not right answer, but like what I would want. So just like more disassociated. But twos, when they are like really healthy, they get to this point of where they can create, their lives can look really big, and they actually can look like threes sometimes too, where they're very independent. They have like a lot of, they can have more ambition because it might be after something they want. And I think they're very peaceful people at that point when they're like in that four range, because they aren't trying to please every single person and make sure everybody's around them. They're not hyper vigilant. They're just like, I'm trusting that everybody loves me, and I already know I love everybody.
Yeah, and fours tend to be more like introspective people, like thinking about themselves, and that's what we want fours to do. We want you to recognize your needs and think about yourself and nurture yourself.
Yeah.
So pulling that from the four is a good thing.
And
Fours can go a little extreme with it, but
yeah, but fours are also very body in tune, and a healthy two, because of that self-abandonment and the unhealthy side, a healthy two that goes to that four will also be aware of their body and what their body's needs are. So they're not going to be abandoning themselves. They're not going to be overeating. They're not going to be neglecting their own hygiene and all of that. They're going to be caring for themselves and recognizing that's also one of the most important things you can do.
Yeah,
And then they're also going to have, like we talked about, that self-expression. So they're going to be like, this is the music I love. And then they'll bring that to people they love and share it, and have the trust that they're going to be accepted for what they like. They'll share their hobbies, their interests, their creative work. They're willing to be open about that and not hide it as much when they're a healthier four. And so it gives them that sense of like, you'll see them look very independent. Although they're still very altruistic. It's just, I think when they're there and when you start to express your own creativity and be in tune with your own body, I think that's when authentic love finds you. So with the two, the question also is this love real if you're expecting something in return? And so to really have that deeper connection and more authentic connection with people, I think you need to be more in tune with your own body, your own interests, your own selves. And in return, you actually get the deepest love you could get in life.
I do think that's kind of like a universal truth. I think maybe it's harder for twos, but to be like, to really know yourself and be kind of the best
But
version
what's
of yourself, that's
interesting
when you're
is,
gonna find the best love.
Yeah. But what's interesting is, like, for some people, they need to be less inward and more outward. So like maybe like a five needs to be less about their own mind and thoughts and more about other people, while
that's my husband.
A two, so his work is actually more outward because he might be two in his own world, and while a two on the other side of it are so outward that their health goes inward. And so it's that connection of, do you need to connect more outward or inward to become the most authentic version of you? And so for two,
it's more the mode that's different.
Yeah. So because twos have such self-abandonment in the service to others, the greatest thing they can do, and it's always going to be saying, I think all of it's going to be like counterintuitive. The greatest thing that a two could do is give themselves radical self-love and the permission to have your own interests and likes and opinions. And as a result, you're going to just see like this whole shift of like people showing up exactly how you actually want. You're going to get exactly what you're craving is the ultimate thing of that love, versus like when you're constantly putting it out on other people, you're always going to be questioning, is this love real? Because it's transactional. And then you're actually abandoning yourself. So you're getting the least amount of love.
Your cup's empty.
Yeah. So, but twos are wonderful. I love twos in this world. I think they are the people giving back and making us all, taking care of us all, ultimately.
Great partners. Honestly, great parents when they're healthy.
When they're a healthy two parent can make a child feel so seen.
Yes.
Did you feel that with your dad?
Oh, yeah. I always felt so loved by him. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. What we're excited for is next week we're doing your Enneagram.
I know. Crazy.
I'm really curious, like, how it's going to go when we do, like, our own Enneagrams on just, like, the relation and the conversation around it, because it's very different when it's, like, you're talking about yourself.
I guess so. I feel like I can point out more like the unhealthy, like, oh yeah.
Probably the more the nuances. Yeah, the more you
Yeah.
have these people, you're going to be like, oh, I get them.
So get ready.
Yeah.
All you threes out there.
There's a lot. If America was to have an Enneagram, it would be a 3.
Totally.
So they're very, like, beloved, but the threes have their stuff too.
Oh yeah. Doesn't mean you're without your struggles.
Of course not. Well, thank you guys all for joining us at the table. If you are interested in learning more or taking the test, you can head on over to innatewomen.com, where you can click the pop-up and take your test. It comes right to us, and then we can dive deeper together.